What's happening, friends list? Episode 12 of the Gamecast is coming to you. Our Gears 5 review episode, where we break down every aspect of the game in deep dive format for you. Does Microsoft's newest installment in the legendary cover shooter series take the cake as the best in the long line of Gears games yet? Plus, we follow up last week's topic on GameStop with news of their store revamp leaking online and how that can impact your experiences with the retailer. All that and more to come, so rev up that Lancer, baby, and let's get started.
Now the fun begins.
Richard.
Stop! You violated the law.
What's good, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Game Pass Gamecast. I'm your host, as always, Travis White, aka Traveless, on most internet platforms, and today I am joined by one of our regular co-hosts, but he's riding solo today with me, so a little duo action going on. Mike P-Pack, back from Atlantic City. Mike, it's been kind of a build-up leading into this show, the anticipation of hearing about how AC was since we've been talking about since really the podcast started. How did everything go? What's going on, man?
It went okay. Obviously, didn't do as well as we wanted to do, but we ran into two buzzsaws. So we had a bracket set up where we were the seventh open team, like the seventh seeded open team there, and they wound up. One team didn't show up, so it switched all the brackets around. We got the sixth seed, and we actually got a much harder bracket. So we had a tough go of it. Both teams that we lost to wound up playing in the championship bracket. They wound up playing or placing professionally. So nothing to hang our hats on. But it was just a disappointing finish. We didn't get swept by any teams there though, so that was good. We gave both teams that we lost to a fight. Personally played really well. Just as a team, we had some pain points there that weren't worked out yet, and came up a little short of our goal, but all in all, it was a fun experience, and we had a blast in Atlantic City, so that was fun. Obviously, Halo didn't go the way we wanted to, but all in all, we had a good group of guys, and it was a great time.
Nice. Well, it sounded like it was a good trip overall, not just, like you were saying, you guys maybe didn't get the results you were hoping to see, but it seems like it was a good trip overall and a good experience. But, what's, I guess now, like, are you going to keep playing, trying to make a push, to do with some competitive Halo, or are you just kind of chilling for now, or what's up?
I think I'm going to focus on more content creation. Reason being is the next Halo event is in it hasn't been announced yet, so we don't know, but we're thinking it's supposed to be Halo 3 at DreamHack Atlanta, which I would love to attend another DreamHack event. DreamHack at Dallas was mind-blowing. It was such a great experience just to be at a conference like that where just everybody's into gaming. Like, it was just an incredible experience, and I would love to go back. But with my job, I think I might be in blackout days there, so I'd have to check with my manager to see if it would even be possible for me to get those days off. And without it actually officially being announced and flights fluctuating every day, I'm a little concerned with the cost of attending. So as of right now, the game plan is to just kind of get back into streaming and get back into content creation and focus a lot less on competing. And not that I don't have a drive or a love for it, but it's just at some point, it's just kind of time to call it a day. Like, nothing can ever really go right for me when I go to these events. So as of right now, I don't have any desires of continuing to compete, but we'll see what happens. That could change. It just very well depends on what happens here.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Like, what the mainstream audience really doesn't understand is that, like, they just think. Take for example, the kid who won $3 million playing Fortnite. Like,
well, right.
They just think it's like pick up and play. Like, anybody can do it. No, it's like eSports. If you're trying to make a professional push, or you're trying to actually commit to the esports scene, it's a fucking full-time job, man. Like,
absolutely,
you got it. It's like any real job, or any other professional sport or whatever. Like, you got to have the time commitment for it. You have to practice. You guys got scrims. You guys got different things going on, that you're working on game plans in Discord. You're doing all these other things that people just don't.
Yeah,
think about.
not only are you putting in 6 or 7 hours of practice a day if you want to be at the top, but you're also putting in 2 hours or so of like film study, and that's like kind of on the light end if you're really looking to improve. And it's something that with me with my fall semester, it's just I think it's time for me to be more focused on other things in my life, whether it be like focusing on school more is a very big priority for me. And like I said, I really want to get back into streaming a lot more. And not, I mean, I don't want to be the next big thing on Twitch. I'm not that naive. But when I do play, I want to be creating content for people to enjoy. So we'll get back into that realm of life a little bit, and we'll see what happens. I mean, there's people that were watching me play at AC, and I got a nice overkill exterm, and I was doing some other things, and some people were watching, and definitely have some team requests as far as like people who would want to play with me if I was willing to go. So it's not something that I'm completely against, but it's definitely something that like it would have to be the right situation for me to get engaged in that type of endeavor again. I suppose I could put it that way.
No, definitely, man. I totally get that. And really, what your content you offer to bring, which I always appreciated, was you have the high level of play, but you're social, you're entertaining at the same time, which I think a lot of people really miss over. It's either one or the other. They're either super competitive and they're great at the game, but they have no fucking social interactions with people. Or, you know, like I find when I stream and I do it, you know, consistently and find some success, it's me being entertaining. It's just me being a jackass. Like,
yeah, I mean, everybody kind of has their thing, and you're not the first person to tell me, and I am like grateful and thankful that you feel this way about me. But I've been told by other people that watch me that they're like my entertainment value comes from, like you said, stemming from being skilled at the games, like highly skilled at the games, but also having a personality to go along with it. Because there are a lot of pros that are just boring to watch, but I try to kind of, you know, mix in both there. I try to be as active as I can, and I feel like I have more to offer in that realm, if you will. So even if when I start streaming again, if I'm playing Halo, which I would like to be playing some Halo, it would be more like I would do some hardcore, but I'll play some other game types that allow me to be a little more like social with the chat than like when I'm sitting there playing hardcore for 4 or 5 hours in a stream. After about hour 2, your brain's just kind of like bleh, and you gotta like have to focus everything you have on playing because it's at such a high level that like my chat value will go down. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to find a balance of that and see what happens. But I'm really excited in October. I have some cool things going. I owe some people that are really close to me some streams that they've been requesting for a long time that I say what I would do. I got Five Nights at Freddy's stream. My cousin John, he really loves to watch me play Dead by Daylight. And that game just gets me in a certain type of mood that I'm not too proud of, but I got to do a better job at removing my emotion from the game and just playing it for like enjoyment, you know what I mean? And that's something I have a hard time
for what it is, you know?
Yeah, that's something I have a hard time doing with video games in general. Every game I play, I want to be the best at. So I think that's my biggest thing going forward, being 26 years old at this point. While I still love Halo, and if I got a really good team offer for Atlanta, I would just jump at it and want to play. But at the end of the day, I need to focus on enjoyment in video games because I feel like over the last few years I've just not received enjoyment out of games because I think I've just been in the wrong mindset, and I need to try to readjust my mindset and get focused more on the just straight up enjoying the game. And I think with this Gears podcast that we're about to go on to, you'll see the way I analyze the multiplayer for Gears, which I'm going to bring it to our listeners in a way that they might not look at the game. Like I have a really hard time looking at games that in an unanalytical way, if you will, or a way that's just like, you know, whatever meets the eye. I always take a deep dive into things, so I think that's something I really want to focus on.
No, definitely, yeah. We'll have more on that to come. And normally I'd ask, you know, hey, what have you been playing? But I'm sure from what it sounds like and what we've talked about, you know, off recording, that you put a decent chunk into Gears multiplayer. So really on your end, I'm guessing that's what you've been playing.
Yeah, I just think I wanted to provide the listeners a deeper dive into the multiplayer than just face value, right?
Oh, for
So I
sure.
wanted to really as of this recording, I'm like a level 37 or something on there, which isn't a ton of time, but I've put more than just play it a few times and get like a knee-jerk reaction. My
Yeah.
first knee-jerk reaction wasn't very good, I'm not gonna lie, but after putting some more time into it, I have a bit of a different opinion on it. So
Yeah.
I felt like the listeners deserved a fair shakedown. Like if we're going to review this game, I felt like they deserved knowledgeable,
Right.
a knowledgeable review, not just like I didn't like the game right off the bat, so piss on it type deal. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
you don't want the ice thin, coverage of it. So no,
Absolutely,
and I
yeah.
totally agree with you, and that's why when we get to it in a little bit and actually kind of dig into our review, we'll kind of go into it, and you'll be able to give your take on. Basically, we split the game into two. I cover campaign, Mike covers multiplayer, and I think we really do have we both sunk a decent chunk of time into this game, so I think we'll be able to give you a really good rundown of what it's looking like. But on my end, really, Gears has been kind of controlling me in terms of I had some personal stuff going on at the beginning of the week, or whenever Gears first dropped, between work and some other family things going on. I didn't get a chance to play till, I want to say that Sunday, that with lining with the Ultimate Edition dropping. But I was able to play through it, got done, wrapped the story. Awesome. We'll talk about that. But outside of that, I started finally playing through A Link to the Past right at the end of that because I'm itching to get into some Zelda. Zelda is one of my favorite game franchises of all time, if not my favorite. But with Link's Awakening coming out later this week, I wanted to play a Zelda. That's the one Zelda game I've never beat, A Link to the Past. So I wanted to go back and play that. I'm right at the end now, so I'll probably wrap on that tonight at some point if I get a chance to. But outside of that, obviously, it's just been mostly Gears. Yo, what's good? Future Travis here. Naturally, our friends at Xbox Game Pass had to drop some information on new games coming to the service the day after we record, because that's all it always goes with us. We're a flaming garbage truck for 90% of this show. Come on now, you should know by now. So, I'm here to give you some details on upcoming games coming to Xbox Game Pass, console only, over the next week. So, out now, the two biggest titles on the list: Jump Force, the manga and anime-based fighting title, and Bloodstained: Ritual of the Night, the newest Metroidvania from Artplay, and the original Castlevania producer Koji Igarashi. Hey, I got that. That was one try I tried that. So, following that up, on September 26th, we have indie title Bad North, Lego's Minecraft-inspired Lego World, and Dirt Rally 2.0. So, there you have it. New games coming to Xbox Game Pass. So, when your little shit brother tells you, my son played the Xbox, you don't have to worry about him deleting your Gears 5 save. So, now that we got that, let's get back to the show. But before we get into that, as always, just a little bit of housekeeping. It's our Game Pass giveaway, man. Do you like Xbox Game Pass? Chances are pretty high that you do if you're listening to the show, because God knows it's not for my voice. I may change that up at some point, because I'm sure that's probably getting annoying, so now I can make a play on that. But anyways, I'll give you a good reason to put up with it, because we're giving away 3 free months of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate to one lucky listener. That's Ultimate, baby. That's console and PC. Plus, you get games early, Ultimate Editions like Gears 5. So, want to know how to win?
I played it early.
You're damn right you did.
Played it early.
Fuck yeah, I did. Want to know how to win? Trick question, I'm already going to tell you anyway. So, head on over to our Twitter account at GPGC Podcast and just do the following. Retweet the pinned tweet on our profile about the contest and follow our Twitter account. Boom. That's it. Easy enough, right? A link to the tweet will also be found in the description of this episode on every platform you get it on. So clicking that will take you right to it. So head on over to @GPGC Podcast and enter today. I really hope we give that away here soon. I've been sitting on it, man. I've been wanting to get it up because I want to give more people a chance to to be able to win it. So hopefully we get that away soon. Before we jump into our review, though, I did want to kind of almost a follow-up to last week's episode where we ended up touching on the future of, like, GameStop and gaming-specific and specialized stores. So this comes via IGN's Matt Kim. GameStop store redesign leaked. So I'll kind of dive into it. I'll provide the link, like always, into the description of the show. Go over there, give Matt a link or a click, give him a view. That definitely goes a long way for those guys. So I'll kind of dig into it, and then we'll kind of compare it to what we were talking about earlier. So IGN can confirm the accuracy of a recent Facebook video which appears to show what one of the redesigned GameStop stores could look like under the company's GameStop reboot plan. A GameStop store in Pryor, Oklahoma posted a video tour of what looks like a new layout for the store. A source familiar with GameStop's operation who requested anonymity has confirmed that the store matches the blueprint layout of the redesign shown at GameStop's annual conference. IGN sources say there's a test store in Oklahoma, the same state which the video is from. A second source familiar with GameStop's future reboot plan said that not all stores will look like the one in this video, with some stores redesigned to focus more on eSports, retro gaming as shown in that video, or a more traditional design similar to existing stores. Other features, like wall-mounted tablets, are more universal features that corporate will implement across all stores. The new store appears to ditch the glossy black-white aesthetic of current GameStop locations. Instead, the new store sports a more muted gray color aesthetic with faux wood paneling. The store is also sleeker and more streamlined, with cleaner rows of games as well as a small table for video game apparel and figures. There's also a wall-mounted tablet in the store that customers can order from, as well as a sofa and HD TV located in the middle of the store. Furthermore, in the back of the store is a new space filled with CRT TVs and tables, apparently used for tabletop games. This would align with GameStop's previously stated goals of turning stores into event spaces where they could host live tournaments and events. So, after all that said, like I said, I'll put the link to the article in the description of wherever you get the show. Go over there, give Matt a click, give him a view on that, because I did kind of take a lot of that from there. But I think it's all important to kind of digest here since we can't really show you the video. But definitely check the video out. It really falls in line with what we were kind of talking about last week with the rumor mill that was going on, that we were kind of looking at hey, they're going to be doing more ordering from tablets. They're going to have it more of being a lounge area. So now that we kind of have confirmation of what we reported on last week from the rumor mill, and after seeing literal video of what many stores could adopt in the near future, do you think this helps GameStop trend in the right direction, Mike? Like this vision?
Yeah, we talked about it briefly last week on the episode, and I think basically have the same exact feelings that I had last week. I said that I didn't think GameStop would survive, or was it 2 weeks ago? Anyway, doesn't matter.
We recorded
that.
Matter. Yeah, that week we kind of flip-flopped. We recorded that episode first, then Blair Witch, but we put Blair Witch out first.
So
it's okay. Last week. We're all good.
Okay. So last week we talked about this briefly, and this information, you leaked it after you got our opinions. Basically, my sentiment is the same as last week. If they are able to rebrand and kind of make a new name for themselves, like they're trying to do with changing the way that everything works at GameStop, and they're going to make it more event oriented with small tournaments, tabletop support. They're going to have CRTs in the back for older retro gaming and tournaments. I think that this is the right way for GameStop to try to survive, because if they didn't change or adapt, they were going to die, right? And I think that they saw that and they're going the right direction, because I remember when we were younger, I would ask them about eSports, back whenever MLG Halo was a thing, and they wouldn't sponsor anybody or do this or do that because they just weren't interested in it, right? So now it seems like they finally kind of changed their tune on the situation that is esports, and it sounds like they're adapting to what the market's calling for. And this is a good thing for GameStop, because without the adaptation of switching to this new realm or this new space, I do honestly think that it would be, it would be devastating to GameStop, and we would ultimately see them close their doors. But this change is going to be a good thing, because if in Greensburg, if they, we kind of talked about how many stores there are in such a small little area there, and it's insane, right? Where if they closed a couple of those stores and just made a bigger store in one location and focused on these type of events, I feel like it would be the best thing for them as a company. And if they have esports tournaments that relate to me, I'm going to go and I'm going to enjoy them, because I used to
Hell
drive the
yeah.
whole way to Pittsburgh for COD tournaments, and it was no big deal.
Mhm.
So if there's ones even closer, even if it's like Madden or something I don't really play, I'll go buy a T-shirt or whatever and support it, because I think esports is a huge deal in today's society, and I think we see that with all the money and everything. We've talked about it extensively on this podcast, so I'll save it. But I just think that this is the right direction for GameStop. You know what I mean?
No,
How do you feel about it? Do you think that this is gonna ultimately aid in their survival? Do you think that they're gonna last a long time with this, or what do you think?
see, my gut tells me. Let's put it this way: there will always be a place for specialty stores like GameStop. Like there's always going to be no matter, not to the extent maybe we see it right now with digital being on the rise, but there's always going to be, just like there is, there's still FYEs. There's still music stores. I mean, there's a Guitar Center. Granted, there's one in our area and it's in Monroeville, but it's fucking huge. Like,
Right.
because there'll always still be a need to have that there to meet that, because there is a want for it. There is, like, people are asking for that. But more importantly, especially with esports on the rise, and especially with the mass pop culture impact that gaming's now having comparative to, I mean, 10 years ago, it was big, but it was now you look at it, gaming's just so mainstream, it's so accessible to people that I look at this as a great move. This is bringing people together. This is what is at the heart of gaming. I mean, realistically, yeah, I'm a huge single player guy, but I love nothing more than couch co-op with people. Fuck, like,
Right.
let's play Mario Party. Let's get 10 people there, order a pizza, and let's just chill out for the night. If nobody has the space to, do it at their apartment or whatever, let's rent the GameStop out or whatever, or rent that one area out. Let's all get there and, we'll buy drinks and stuff like that and chill out for the night. Like, and that's the kind
like,
of environment
what if
they would need. Like,
you being an event planner per se, with being in college athletics, like, sure, you don't like plan the entire event, but you're kind of involved in the situation.
I'm at the forefront of the logistics with all that shit.
Right. Like, do you see this as a situation, like you touched on drinks? Do you see this as a situation where people will be able to have their LAN parties there? Because I mean, there's still
100%.
there's still a market for that, and like an overnighter where pizza and pops provided, it's just part of like the part of the cost of the rental or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's funny you say that. I was going to bring up the point that, how you're saying, like, overnighters and things like that. I think we could see a resurgence of the midnight release again. In terms of, like, they still have them. I went for Red Dead last year because I didn't want to wait. I wanted to get it installed, so when I was home from work the next day, it was ready to go. Plus, I just like having, like, with big games, I still like going and getting physical media for them. But
Sure.
But this way of bringing the midnight release really enforces hey, especially for stuff like, I'm not a big Destiny guy, but Destiny Shadowkeep's coming up. Like, they can have a huge event at stores like this surrounding Shadowkeep. Like, that's such a big, like, almost like to the extent that you saw with, like, World of Warcraft back in the day, whenever they would drop their expansions. It was a huge fucking deal where they would bring people in, and they would try to do things surrounding World of Warcraft, like to make events and give prizes away. But now they could actually incorporate the game to it with these stations. Like, I'm guaranteeing some of these GameStops are going to have a handful of desktop PCs there that are able to, run whatever PC games they want to play. So
Right.
things
And
like
maybe
that.
they'll get in with like Fortnite, where if you're playing
Right.
in qualifiers, you can play there or something weird. You know what I mean?
Almost like the Halo with Microsoft stores. So, like,
Yep.
I see this as nothing but a positive, because really at this point, what the fuck else do they have to lose? Like, in all
I mean, they're going
honesty,
to close regardless, right?
if they stay with the same trajectory that they're on right now, they're going to close, which sucks, because like, I don't like GameStop's sales tactics with their whole circle of life thing, and how they basically hold a gun to, like, any non-managerial staff. Well, I shouldn't say that. Anybody who's, like, district and above holds guns to people's heads, like, when they're working to get these sign-ups and for the power-up cards and whatnot, and that's just fucked up. Like, and there's a lot of, you could do your own research, just YouTube, just type in really GameStop stories. There's a ton of them. Camelot's one YouTuber that really kind of broke the the dam on this in terms of all the shady stuff that's been going on with GameStop. But now it seems like with kind of some new leadership involved with them, stuff like this gives me hope, because I don't want to see anybody go out of business, really.
Right.
Like, especially because at the end of the day, the only people who that hurts are the people who have jobs there. I mean, I remember in high school, like, I was like, fuck, I'd love to have a job at GameStop. But from what I hear, I would never want, like a part-time job in school or whatever like that. Like,
Yeah,
I would never,
absolutely.
because I'm like you, like us, we're passionate about gaming. So, like, that was, to me, I was like, fuck, I can go and sell games. I would want to be there and do that. But, like, from what I hear, how they treat these kids, like, it's fucked up. That it's like, I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy. So, I'm glad to see the way that it's going with GameStop. I think this is a good move, because, like I said, at the end of the day, like, what the fuck else do they have to lose? Like, I'd rather see them take stabs at changing and attempting to rebrand themselves to a more, almost like we've seen PlayStation at the beginning of this gen and Xbox now at this point in the gen being, hey, we're here for gamers. We're doing gamer things in mind. Fuck it. You don't have to buy anything. Just come chill with us, man. Like, come play some games. Like, and while you're here, yeah, check out some of the stuff we have. We'd love to sell you some stuff and, like, get your gaming needs here. But, like, being there for the gamers and building that trust and that relationship with their customers that I think they really did burn for the past half decade at least, in my opinion. So, but fingers crossed. Hopefully that's all good with them. I think it's, like I said, I think it trends in the right direction, and hopefully that's kind of a resurgence for them. But we're not here to talk about GameStop, ladies and gentlemen. We're here to talk about our game of the week. It is our Gears 5 review. I was so excited for this fucking game, man. And, we'll go into it, especially on both sides, both being campaign and multiplayer. And a lot of outlets, both our size and bigger, really have kind of done the same thing with splitting up this game. They've offered a campaign review, they've offered a multiplayer review, because I think that just, games like this, almost like Halo, where it's just, each component to the game really could just be a game in itself. Like, it's really like you're almost getting two games. Like, Gears multiplayer and Gears campaign really could stand alone on each other, that it's like, it's hard to justify them all smushed into one. So, I'm really excited to kind of, both of us, I know I have detailed notes on, what I want to talk about with the campaign. So, let's just get into it, and I'll run through, me, I give my facts just to kind of set the table on what we want to talk about. Released worldwide September 10th, 2019. That's excluding the Ultimate Edition, which you could have got on the 5th, I believe? 6th?
Yes, the 5th, yep.
Okay, so, yeah, the 5th. That includes different skins and stuff like that, but the big thing is playing it early. But Gears 5, if you're new to the franchise, is the 5th installment, obviously, in the legendary third-person cover shooter of Microsoft's franchise, Gears of War. So, it picks up right after the conclusion of Gears 4 and begins to kind of unravel the mystery surrounding Kate's family and the Locust Crest her mother Warren gave to her. But just to kind of set expectations on where this game was at, or is now moving forward, this is really, no matter what we say, this is such a big step into the vision that Microsoft's kind of laid out over the past year and a half, 2 years almost now, where they're saying, you know what, we dropped the ball at the beginning of this generation. We did things that were more, we just want to be a box in your living room. We weren't a game console. Now they're doing all these things that we're saying, they're laying out, hey, we're committing to first-party exclusives. We see how PlayStation's done that. We see how Nintendo's done that, where that's their bread and butter. That's what gamers want. They want games. Microsoft, granted, right now still has the most powerful console on the market, which I fucking love, but they don't have the first-party exclusives like PlayStation and Nintendo has in terms of the quality that they're putting out. But this kind of changes that, to me, at least. And the stats back it up, man. Let me give you this one, because it just came out, actually, I believe, late yesterday. Since its release, and this is including the Ultimate Edition that you could get via Xbox Game Pass Ultimate for $2, like, it's very much, there's a reason why they're putting this out there. But since its release, Gears 5 has attracted over 3 million players in its opening weekend alone, which is twice the number of players as Gears 4 on consoles. So
Right.
it's huge. It's the biggest launch of any Xbox Game Studios game this gen, and it's the most played Xbox Game Studio title in its first week since Halo 4 in 2012, which is fucking nuts. I mean, that shows you how poor Microsoft did for the past, better part of a decade, really, at this point. But I'm so happy to see, as somebody who at one point drifted away from Microsoft and was kind of back in, because I felt kind of that, like, they kind of spit in our face a little bit, but who's gotten trust regained with Microsoft. I'm so happy to see this, that, people are giving this franchise a try, and 3 million players over its first weekend is bananas. That's
right.
I don't care who you are. I don't care what game you have. A game that realistically, because it's scalable. It runs on Unreal 4, I believe. So it's pretty scalable. That while it is on PC, though, a lot of people, I'm sure, are going out and buying this. They want this on their Xbox. They're not going to play it on PC. Granted, a lot of people do, but at the same time, for the average gamer that they're trying to, boast against, it's viewed first and foremost as an Xbox, a console exclusive, really. So, and it's marketed that way. But 3 million players, I don't care what I don't care, granted, it's, a Game Pass game, you can get it in for $2 right now, and this and that. Great. That's what they want. 3 million players, though, for any exclusive on a specific only console, that's bananas. I mean, it's
legit. That's a big number, and it speaks
for
volumes for
especially for Microsoft.
It speaks volumes for a game series that we all kind of thought was dead, right? Like, we all knew Gears existed, but like after Gears 3, the Judgment game comes out, meh. Then Gears 4 comes out, meh. And like, we thought this game was dead, and then all of a sudden, with Gears 5, we see all these players, and don't discount the fact that it being playable on PC made a huge difference for them. Like, the fact that people can play cross-platform, like I was just playing with someone last night who was on PC. And like, that's fantastic for PC users, and they love to play on their PC, so why not let them? So I think that that's a big deal, that people, it bodes well that if Gears has this many numbers of players, just wait till MCC and Halo Infinite release on PC with that crossplay. We should see a little more life breathed into both of these series, because let's face it, a lot of the Xbox users, after 4 and MCC was just a dumpster fire, a lot of those players that were Microsoft moved on to PC. It's just a fact. Yeah. And there might be a lot of
before you go into that, let me just kind of raise this up. I had this as one of our topical discussion questions.
Sure, sorry.
Later on. No. You're just trending in the way that I was going to ask you anyways. What do you think, just looking at that metric alone, and now Gears 5 really kind of bolstering Xbox into the zeitgeist again? I think, granted, it's been there, but more so in the mainstream due to the critical success and now the commercial success of it. What do you think the success of Gears 5 indicates for the future of titles like Halo Infinite and other Xbox Game Studios in terms of like metrics and players, even if it is via Game Pass alone? Like, what do you think this kind of sets up for the future?
I think Xbox diagnosed the situation, which we've chronicled on this podcast many a times, that they were on the back foot. They got kind of popped in the mouth by Sony this generation, and I think that they began to game plan what their response was going to be and how they were going to respond. And I feel like, the Game Pass edition, the service that Game Pass offers, was one of the ways that Xbox and Microsoft kind of thought, hey, we got blown out at the beginning. Let's start chipping away at that lead. That way, coming into the next gen, we can be right there with Sony. And if we can at least get close and bridge that gap right now, then come, whenever the new system releases, we'll be right there with them, right?
Right.
I think that's kind of what their game plan was, and they're executing it flawlessly right now.
Yeah, 100%.
As far as your question, answering the immediate question, which is, how do you think Game Pass has affected this? I mean, obviously, you'd be remiss to say that it didn't make all the difference with Gears 5, because let's just face it, I have Game Pass, and if I didn't have Game Pass, I probably wouldn't have bought Gears 5 straight up right off the bat, because I didn't really trust the product.
100%.
Now, you get to play it with Game Pass, and you get all these other great games. I feel like it just bodes well for Xbox as a whole. And if they have to fork out more money to the devs because they're putting their games on the Game Pass,
Mhm.
but like they're going to lose revenue. Like the game dev companies are going to lose revenue, obviously, because they're not getting as many $60 buyers. But if Microsoft's willing to pump the money into it and make it work, it's great. I think that it's going to do wonders. It already has for Gears of War. I think putting MCC on PC and making it crossplay, putting Infinite on PC and making it crossplay is going to do wonders for the player base that is going to play Halo.
Mhm.
And I think that this is a way that they can kind of get Sony players to play their game still. Like you kind of strayed away from Xbox because at the beginning of the generation it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
But if you had the option to keep your PS4 and then like itch that addiction that is Halo every once in a while on your PC, you're going to do it, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is a great way for Microsoft to chip away at Sony in an unorthodox way, not sheer sell consoles numbers way. This is a great way for them to do it just via PC and through a service. Because think about it. So they might miss out on money in games purchased through Xbox, right? Like they might miss out on just sheer copies bought, but all these PC players that are going to subscribe to Game Pass is where they're going to make up their difference. Yeah. And that's what their market game plan is from a marketing standpoint. And, they're executing it flawlessly. And I'm excited to see what the future holds for Microsoft as a whole.
No, definitely. And kind of piggybacking off that too, I mean, that falls in line with, don't forget, xCloud, their cloud streaming service that's going to come out where you can pull out your fucking phone, open the xCloud app, sync your controller up via Bluetooth, and you're good to go. And you're playing on an Xbox One X via, a whole cloud server, but at the same time, like, I fully trust Microsoft on that end because they have hands down the best track record for infrastructure for this. They have the most money, they have the most everything. Like, they're not gonna just piss around with it.
I agree.
That's why it isn't out with Stadia right now, or at least leading into being out with Stadia right now, because they're going to make sure it's right when they put it out. Plus, they have all the money in the world to make sure it's right when they put it out. But that falls in line with what you're saying too, that Microsoft, while they haven't physically come out and said it directly. Realistically, with their game plan approach right now, they view Xbox as a platform, not a system. They don't care how you play their games, they just want you playing their games. That's why pretty soon...
they're kind of... Like, it almost has a Steam-esque feel to it, right?
It's very PC gaming, because realistically, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're on... if you got an AMD processor or an Intel processor running your computer, it's a PC and it's going to run those games. Hell, even a Mac, 90% of the games that you could play on Steam, you can play on your Mac, or with the the Steam Cloud thing that they have. I can't remember what it is. But
obviously it's not optimized on Mac. Most of these games are better run on PC. Absolutely. But you can still do it.
Yeah, absolutely. You can still do it. So, they're more worried about, we just want to get people in playing our games. That's why you're going to see Game Pass on the Nintendo Switch here soon. I mean, it's going to happen. It's just, everything. They're more worried about getting it out there. They're more worried about just you playing Xbox. And while they're still going to offer, we're going to have the, 20 teraflop system, that Scarlet is, and the big beefy, it can, it runs 4K 60 everything with ease, and it will even do, it's 8K ready whenever the time comes for that, like, where that's, standard or whatever. They're still going to have that, but they're giving you as many options as possible. And like I said, they're just more worried about you playing their games right now. They just want you into the ecosystem. And that's why I just think with these metrics that they're putting out with Gears, to me, it's easily, I see this as a recipe for success leading into the next generation. I've said that before, but to me, they're being more forward thinking than I think. Nintendo's been pretty forward thinking for what they've been doing, but I think overall, man, like, compared to the PlayStation right now, I mean, I think they're being much more forward thinking with it, but...
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's a situation where I think PlayStation's really focused on...
I don't think PlayStation's sleeping either. I mean, they got stuff in the oven, but Xbox right now they just have very upfront about it.
Yeah, they have the big leg up in terms of exclusive, which has been chronicled on this
Hmm.
podcast multiple times. The other thing they have is they have the whole COD eSports lockdown, and I
Yeah.
think that they're doing a lot with that right now. That there's a lot of things going on at PlayStation that has them where they're at.
Hmm.
And it was Xbox's job to catch up. Now
Yeah.
Xbox is doing everything they have to catch up. What is PlayStation going to do next to answer to Xbox's efforts? Is PlayStation going to be able to slow the momentum that Xbox has? These are things that we'll learn here in the next few years, and hopefully we'll podcast within the next few years what's going on with everything. And that remains to be seen, and I'm excited for it because for once in my life, besides like with the Xbox 360, because people can say they like the PS3 better, but the Xbox 360 was the better console.
100%.
I think that for the first time in my life, seeing like I thought the original Xbox was better.
Hmm.
I thought Xbox 360 was better. Come Xbox One, all of a sudden Xbox isn't king, and I'm excited to see what Microsoft does because is it a situation where Xbox was resting on their laurels? Absolutely. And they saw all their cash cows kind of go by the wayside,
Hmm.
and PlayStation caught up to them. Now, what's going to happen with this next generation? We'll see what happens, but it's exciting time for gamers because for us, we're the beneficiaries of all this
You're damn
innovation
right,
and
man.
hard work, and it's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So, with that being said, before we, get too off track, let's get into our personal reviews with this.
Sure.
Let me, I'll kick it off. I'll get campaign out of the way just because there's obviously much more I could spoil with campaign, and I'm obviously not going to. This is non-spoiler because I want everyone to go out and experience this game.
It's still relatively new,
Yeah,
right?
it's only been out a week from today, technically. So,
Yeah.
I definitely will do it. I would like to have maybe a spoiler cast for it eventually.
Sure. Yeah.
Just since you haven't finished campaign yet, but
I just need to go over to Marsh's with my Xbox and play through it with him one day is basically what needs to happen.
Yeah.
And it will. We just got to get a day that works for everybody. And right now I think Adam's just a little busy with some different things.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll get it figured out and we'll get it taken care of.
Yeah. So, all right. So I'll dive into campaign here. So I kind of split up my review into three categories with it pertaining to campaign. Performance, gameplay, and the narrative itself. So let's kind of start with performance. The majority of this, well, actually, no, I kind of split time. I was going to say the majority I played on Xbox One X, but between my X is at my house and I play that on my 4K TV, absolutely beautiful. But
Sure.
My S is at my fiance's house. So I actually ended up playing, because I played some co-op with her as well. I got her in on it. And so I played about, I would say, I'd split it right down the middle. But
Okay.
performance-wise, let's go with Xbox One X starting out. Campaign for this game for the graphical fidelity that this game pushes out, for how stunning it is, for them to get render out at 4K 60 frames per second, almost 99% of the time consistent, is absolutely jaw-dropping. That is viewing that, seeing
from
that,
your Xbox One X, you're saying, right?
from my Xbox One X on my 4K TV in HDR, rendering 4K 60 frames per second, 99% consistent, like locked frame rate almost.
Okay.
This is the future. That's what I'm looking at. This is absolutely gorgeous. It spoils you because I've then gone to play it on my S, and while it is absolutely very playable at, in campaign at 1080p 30, totally playable, still beautiful, it spoils you because you're like, the colors pop. There's so much, like they say with HDR, the blacks are black. There's so much, the color's so deep. But more importantly, it's that smooth frame rate with it. And that goes into also to, you want to factor in load times with that. Going from, with this game having more, I don't want to say open world elements, but it does flesh itself out in a couple of areas comparative to, and which I think was a real positive to, the gameplay section, which we'll get to. But the load times going through there, I figured, coming from playing like, games like Horizon Zero Dawn on PlayStation 4 Pro, and PS4 Pro is no walk in the park either. It kicks some ass, man, but it's nowhere near the X in terms of performance. But a game that had open world elements that I thought was impressive for rendering at 4K and kind of not being a ton of load times, I think Gears blows it out of the water in terms of being able to, yeah, you're able to tell when it comes from cutscene to then actual gameplay, but
Sure.
It's in terms of the actual getting from place to place while playing, it's almost non-existent in terms of the load times. When you first, the only issues I had really with it, it did crash once, but that was when I was starting the game up, and it was like right after I installed a patch or something like that. Like, I think it might have just been a weird thing with the startup on my system, but I did have some load time issues right when it launched, like that launch weekend before they really put out the update to kind of stabilize it a little bit. But I had longer load times when I first booted up the game in 4K 60. But that's been fixed since then. I haven't had any issues with it. So the mainstream user who's coming in getting this on, release date a week ago today,
Yeah.
they shouldn't have any issues with that. But outside of that, that was the only load time. Once I got into the game, there were no load times. It's really impressive what they've been able to kind of hide behind, pull behind the curtain while you're out, moving around. So, and kind of looking into, kind of moving into gameplay and talking about the environments, man, I really, really dig the expansive environments that this game had. It kind of it breathed fresh air into, not that Gears was ever, I don't want to say it was stale, because I liked Gears 4 a lot in terms of the package it ended up putting out there. It really had a ton of content by the end of the day with it. Maybe at launch it was pretty stale, but by the end of it, I definitely dug Gears 4, especially the story it told. I like the story. But what I really liked about Gears 5, man, it really opened up. It almost was like God of War, where
Okay.
God of War is still very much a linear game. Does it have open world elements to it? Yeah, but it's more, how do I want to put it? It's almost like three-dimensional linear, where it's more wide. You're getting more space. You're still much, there's still the main quest line is the quest line, but there are, right, like in Gears 5 now, there are some side quests, and it's more forcing you to explore the area, but it makes me want to interact with the area. It's not pushing me like, and I'm one of those people, I love getting the collectibles, like I love achievements, I love trophies, I love things like that.
Sure, yeah.
So I like checking off boxes, but, I never felt forced to do that in this game, because I would, get in the skiff. The skiff feels really good too. The way that you get around these large areas, kind of like the wind sail thing that they have. It actually feels really good. It's almost like the feeling of getting in the Warthog and driving it. It feels really natural.
Sure.
But it'd make me be like, oh, I see, there's a downed cargo plane over there. Like, I just want to check it out. Like, it naturally pushed me there. But it wasn't to the extent of, like, if I was playing one of the newer Assassin's Creed games that are huge open worlds, or Breath of the Wild even, where it's like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Almost like the Skyrim effect, where I can see that all the way over there, and I can go to it, and that's cool and all, but I'll get there eventually. I'm doing this and that, where Gears, it makes me feel like I'm in a bigger area, but it's still pretty condensed. It's almost like Hyrule, the Hyrule field in Ocarina of Time. Like,
okay.
It feels big. Like, you feel like, at that point, with technology and stuff too, but it hid so many things around it, it made you feel like you're in this wide, expansive world, and it made you want to go explore little nooks and crannies that are in there, but it's actually pretty small. But that's what's nice about this, is you're able to get around with the skiff and whatnot. It feels very, very, very deep without actually being that deep. So I don't want to make it sound negative. The more I talk about it, it kind of sounds, it's a positive to me. It doesn't waste your time, is what I guess what I'm trying to say. Which a lot of open worlds do, and I'm glad they only dip their toe in the open world scene with it, which I hope they do moving into the inevitable Gear 6 when they come out with it. That I think there is a place still for these linear experiences that Gears is usually known for. But now with them having these open world elements, man, I really, really like it. I like the toe in the water. Like, it never has to be just open world. Like, that's what I think I liked about God of War most of all, because it didn't waste my time. That it wouldn't take me 20 hours to get it just across the map and back, or to, I didn't want to just fast travel everywhere. I wanted to explore this world, but I didn't want to waste time in it at times just walking. But kind of moving in along gunplay, man. I'm sure you'll talk about this moving into it. To me,
Oh yeah.
To me, I actually really like the changes they made with gunplay. I loved learning kind of the different bullet sprays that you would get, with how certain guns kicked and whatnot. Really remind me of, competitive esports games like CSGO and Siege and stuff. Like, I like that, especially CSGO. That's notorious for, you have to learn how guns spray. You need to learn how bullets actually fly out of the gun and what their trajectory is normally for each gun. To me, I like that. It was fun to learn, and then it was fun to actually naturally say, okay, I have the Lancer, and I know it kind of kicks, almost like the AK in CSGO, it kind of kicks up and to the right a little bit for me. So I need to kind of aim down and left, and naturally I just started doing that. And it felt really satisfying when I was starting to pull off, kind of almost one-taps with my burst fire on my Lancer. Really fun. I like the gunplay a lot. The big thing in terms of my negatives that I take away when it comes to gameplay, which I want to talk about Jack in a little bit, and Jack's not really included in this, the robot.
Yeah.
The enemy AI is actually pretty good. The difficulty scaling can be a lot at times. There's times where I was like, I'd get into a firefight and it'd be like, I'm kind of running out of ammo, and then another nest spawns and they're just all up my ass. And it's like, okay, like, I can see where this is getting frustrated, but at the same time, I need to conserve ammo better or whatnot. But the big thing with the AI that bugs me is the CPU, like your teammates' AI, because you always have, no matter what in this game, at minimum, you're having at least one computer like teammate with you at all times. Like, whenever because the majority of the time you're playing as Kate, so like you're always going to have Dell with you for the most part. That's not a spoiler. That's been all in every marketing material they put out. That's what they've emphasized on. So you're always having him there with you, and you're relying on him at times, especially like I didn't play on like insane or anything, but I played on the second to highest difficulty because I like the challenge of it a little bit. I like the firefights. I think that's one of the most compelling things about Gears. But the AI would always, and I don't know if this really would then be a testament to some of the, combat area level designs, but I always found, like, anytime I get downed, my teammate would just kind of like circle me a couple of times and then try to get me up. And it's like, dude, I'm bleeding out. Like, come on. Especially it'd be frustrating in times, because then it's not on me at that point. Like, yeah, I got downed, but that's why the AI's there to just come over and get me up. Especially when I'm in like a 20-minute firefight and I have actually like 6 other guys with me. Like whenever the whole group is like back together, and that's not a spoiler, but I mean that in like everybody's regrouped at points in the game. So like, so then, like, I have JD, I have Dell, I have Foz, I have, like, a ton of, like, teammates that are there with me that nobody's picking me up. Like, okay, come on, like, let's go. Like,
right.
Like, I'm bleeding out. I don't want to waste another 15 minutes with it. So that part would get frustrating. But the one thing I do want to say, though, about the AI, the one good computer AI that I had on, in terms of, like, companion AI, is Jack. And Jack, I thought, was a really cool implementation in this game, because it added, especially two folds, I guess I should say. One being, I like the RPG light elements that it added, because with Jack, it added a skill tree to Gears, where once again it goes into that, it's not defining itself, oh, we're open world now, oh, we're doing this, like, here's your skill tree for Dell and Kate and everybody. Like, it's Jack's the only skill tree you're building up, and it's all like abilities and things like that you want to get because they're useful. And not only are they useful for you, if you're playing co-op like I did with my fiance, she doesn't play shooters. She plays video games, but she doesn't play shooters. So she doesn't really get the whole dual stick, like, it's kind of off to her. But she's able to play as Jack, and Jack's really awesome because all you do is assisting people. You can't necessarily kill people a ton, like you're not built that way, but you can stun enemies, you can heal enemies, you're playing support at all times.
That's really cool, actually.
Which is great for people who are, and like she's playing on beginner, so it's like, you know, it's great, and it says a lot too to the enemy AI too. How I was saying, like, difficulty scaling can be, you know, tricky at times, but that's also on a higher skill level I'm playing at. But it's great to us because I can go in at, you know, intermediate or whatever the next thing was, and she can go in at beginner, and she's playing Jack, that the game scales to her perfectly, and it's seamless. So, like, Jack, I think, is an awesome addition to this game. One, from a single-player perspective, where I'm wanting to go and find components, which are your skill points, you know, littered throughout the whole game. Actually want to go and find these and add them to Jack and actually make him. But it's not overbearing where I'm doing it for each character that's in the game. But
yeah,
and it's not like, and with Jack too, you're actually the player too. Like my fiance, she's not great at playing shooters or whatever because she doesn't play them and she doesn't really get them. Where she's still having fun because it's impactful what she's doing. Where like in Mario Odyssey, you're playing as Cappy and like, yeah, you can kind of do some things, but it's more cumbersome than anything. Where Jack's like, you're playing support. Your role is meaningful. Even though you're not killing people all the time, you're doing a meaningful role. And it's you're still having fun while doing it, and you're seeing results from doing that. So,
right.
You know, it's really great, and I really give big thumbs up to that. Lastly, moving into the narrative, obviously, like I said, no spoilers. Go and play this game. We'll eventually do a spoiler cast, I'm hoping, once kind of our team wraps up playthroughs and whatnot. But a couple notes just kind of going off it. I really appreciate how the game starts with previously on Gears, knowing that there's going to be a ton of new people coming into this game and playing this franchise for the first time because of the Xbox Game Pass. I think that really helps. And granted, I've also just recently replayed Gears 4 because it's a short campaign. You can kind of get in and get out in easily a weekend. If you have a couple hours, 2 hours a day or whatever, if you're playing. But it's still awesome that it sets up the story perfectly, and it kind of keeps going, and it feeds into my, likes with, I like how games are becoming, especially first-person games, are becoming more cinematic. That it really kind of sets up almost the, syndicated TV aspect of, this is, previously on Dragon Ball Z. It kind of sets the stage for you going into it knowing that, hey, this is what happened. And because of all these new players coming in, it definitely helps do that. So I was a big fan of that. Easily, from a narrative perspective, it's easily the most cinematic Gears to date. It's especially right from the get-go, you're doing stuff that is large scale, but at the same time, it kind of plays in the gameplay as well, where you still have your roots of Gears there. You never feel like you're not playing a Gears of War game. You're always playing a Gears game. It has new flavors to it, but it still feels like a Gears of War game, which is what I want. I don't want to play... If I want to play Uncharted or if I want to play God of War, cool. I'll start up my PlayStation 4 and I'll play those, but I want to play Gears of War. I'm all for trying new things with it, especially if it's stuff that's not completely changing the game, where at all points I still felt like I was playing a Gears of War game. In terms of the narrative itself, I want to say this is probably the strongest to date in terms of the depth of it. Gears has always been, I know, Mike, you've also, I think, have said this before, that Gears never really had the deepest stories, but it always was impactful. Like the narrative that was told and the things that happened in... Yeah,
absolutely,
Gears games, especially, Gears 3-2 and the Gears 2 reveal with Maria, like, it was always impactful things that did happen but at the same time, you're always just, we're in and out, just killing Locust, and that's it. Where, kind of starting with Gears 4 and really bleeding into Gears 5 and having that come to more of a fruition, this Gears, I feel like, has the deepest story to date, where there's depth, there's meaningful things, and that starts with not only the characters, but the dialogue that they're doing. They had excellent performances by Laura Bailey as Kate. She's been absolutely stunning and perfect as that character. And then also, too, like, new characters like Foz, who's in it. Raul Coley. He's on iZombie on the CW. He's been in a handful of games. He's excellent, man. He does a perfect job with Foz. I think that's going to be a Gears character that hangs on for a long time. But The only thing other that I could really say about the narrative, without going into spoilers, like I said, maybe it's just me being, and Mike, you're a movie guy as well. You know, I'm just trained at this point because I love story and I love narrative so much, and I love being told stories that I pick up on context clues pretty easily and details. Like I guess I'm looking for those things, and this also may be me being just too hyped for this game because this is one of my most anticipated games of the year. In the past year, really, that some of the big things that did happen that are being, pushed in the marketing material, like finding out the story behind Kate and her connection with the Locust and whatnot that they've been touting in, promotional materials. When you find out what happens, it's like, okay, I figured that. Type of thing. And not that it was bad. Like, I thought still great stuff. But I didn't think it was as impactful. But there are some really shocking events that do transpire in, like, more of the climatic, moments of the game and the ending, like, moving towards the ending and the climax of the story that are, like, really shocking that I was like, oh, fuck. Like, when it happened, I was like, oh my god, like, really? They're gonna do that? Or really, I have the option to do that? Like, it's wild, man. Like, I'm really excited to talk about, when we do an eventual spoiler cast or when you roll credits on the game. I'm really excited to see what happens with what, transpires in your playthrough. Because there are things that you can manipulate through that are going to have an effect on Gear 6. Like, and I think that's a really unique thing to move forward where it's almost kind of like where you saw it more in like the PS2 era where you'd finish a game and if you still had the same memory card in, decisions you've made could be transferred over into the next game. And you don't really see that anymore because of there's no need for memory cards and stuff like that anymore, but and I just don't see it implemented as much, but it's really cool to see, I'm really excited. Let's put it this way. I'm really excited for Gear 6 and the narrative they set up because I really don't know what's going to happen and where they can go with it. The only thing I can say, last thing I'll really say about the narrative, and then, we'll move into the multiplayer. But I use Halo 2 as a comparison for this. The ending just kind of, it isn't as, it wraps up, like, you're not like, oh, I don't know what's happening next, in terms of, like, Halo 2's hard ending, where it was just like, I'm going to finish the fight, and boom, that's it. Where this, it's like that at, like, a quarter. Where it, like, does resolve a lot of stuff, but I was like, okay, cool, I'm ready for the next mission. Oh, that's it. Okay. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, well, yeah, they could end it there, yeah. I was hoping for a little bit more, but, hey, that's good. I know Gear 6 is coming, man, and it's going to be great. So, it's not as, near as the level of Halo 2's hard stop ending, but it's still, like, I was hoping for maybe a little bit more, but that also might go into, hey, I was really hyped up for this leading into it. Maybe I was a little overhyped, but that still doesn't take away anything that, the narrative director and the creative director, Rod Ferguson, had done for this game. I thought it was an excellent title. From, if I had to put, overall, just overall with the campaign, from a campaign perspective and a single player perspective, this is just such an excellent step forward for this franchise in terms of evolving it and, not just being another, cover shooter that is such a common thing to find in gaming. Cover shooters, this really kind of was one of the grandfathers of cover shooters that now they're just so right there and, easily accessible. This now, once again, separates the pack. This puts Gears of War is now a front runner for, this is an actual evolution of this series. Not just a series, but maybe even the genre itself, the subsect of this shooting, this subsect of shooter. But at the end of the day, it still stays true to its roots. It's really polished overall for me. I face, and I was playing right in that launch window of where people were experiencing. Me, I didn't experience a ton of bugs. There were a few like, oh, I just have to circle back around from the notification to hit X to open a door didn't pop up. Let me back up and move forward. Oh, there it is. Like, that's just gonna happen with stuff, especially right at launch, but it patches all in. Outside of that, nothing ruined my experience from that. So, for me, man, from a single player's perspective, this is, the first time, like I said, we're really getting to see the shades of Microsoft's commitment to exclusives and first-party content that is being built with the next generation of Project Scarlet and beyond, and especially incorporating how integral Game Pass is going to be to this. This, to me, like, if I had to put a number, I usually don't like to put numbers on stuff because I don't want that to define a game's experience. To me, though, if I would put a number on, I'm giving this, like, single player, I'm at least in a 9, man. Like, I love this game.
9.
Because it gives you, it's not just, I always enjoy being able to manipulate a story, and you are able to manipulate this story. And also, too, the fact that it's expanding while also staying true to its roots. Like I said, I always felt like I was playing a Gears of War game. I never felt like I was playing, a Fable or, something else where it's expansive. Like, it has open world elements, but it's more just expanded linearity. So, if that makes any sense, I know that's kind of contradicting itself, but it's true. It's expansive linearity that it's still very A to B focused, but along the way there's subsects. You're able to.
There's a lot more things to do than just
there's depth.
Power through the story, right?
Gears of War has depth now, and I think that's the one thing that always did lack a little bit with their. It was always their gunplay was always excellent, but outside of that, like, the story was pretty good. It had deep moments, but overall the narrative was never deep. This now has subsects to its narrative. This actually feels like the vibes I'm getting from Halo Infinite, that we're seeing so much more than just, Master Chief shoot bad guy. No, we're seeing that franchise evolve, especially in the Discover Hope trailer that we saw at E3, where we're seeing the guy on the spaceship and, we're learning this guy has a backstory and he has depth, and Chief has more than just, I'm going to end this fight. There's more to it. And, if this is a glimpse into the future, it really helps me solidify my view on, man, Microsoft is in a good place right now. I mean, for setting themselves up for the future. They may have, in any more, console wars are nothing anymore, if you ask me. I think that's bullshit. Gamers are gamers no matter what. Play whatever you want on whatever. Everyone should be propping each other up in terms of making gaming just for everybody.
Right.
And to me, though, I want to see everyone succeed. And with Microsoft lacking, man, this generation, this really sets them. If this is a glimpse into what we could see they're offering from Xbox Game Studios, man, we may be in for a treat next gen, man. By like 5 years from now, we may look back on a catalog of some seriously fucking good stuff.
Yeah, that would be amazing, right?
So that's my view. Like I said, I don't like to put numbers on things, but if you twisted my arm or like fucking give me a number, goddamn it, I don't think it's exaggerating saying like this gets like a 9. Like, we're looking like at amazing quality here. Like, this is such a quality product that they put out that's been lacking with Xbox in terms of their first party exclusives. Like, this isn't a Crackdown 3. This is not a no. Granted, Forza is really great. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But we're talking tentpole franchises. This is some quality shit, man. Like, this is excellent. So, but I've talked enough, man. Tell me about multiplayer. Dig into multiplayer. I want to hear about it, man.
So, my honest to goodness review of Gears of War 5 multiplayer. So basically you had your two options. You could go and play like social games, which had a lot of different, like, it had everything that ranked had plus maybe one or two more, but let's be honest, knowing me, I dove right into ranked. So right from level 1, you can play in ranked, which is interesting because in Gears 4 you had to be level 20 before you could play ranked, but in this game you can play right from level 1.
Well, and not to cut you off, but they probably were also thinking too, there's probably a lot of returning players.
Yeah.
Like Gears 1 through 3, like Epic Games Gears of War players that are coming back into this series that now that Xbox is starting to gain a little attraction again, and especially being on PC, that's bringing a lot of that crowd back into it, like you were saying before. So I kind of see where it's coming from, and I'm sure you do, but at the same time, I do agree. It is kind of like, maybe there should at least be like a level 5 barrier, maybe like play a couple
Yeah.
games of casual first.
Yeah, I mean that would make sense. Maybe
Sorry to
they'll
cut
put
you off. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. Maybe they'll put that cap on later, but
Mhm.
it started out with King of the Hill, Escalation, TDM, which is Team Deathmatch, and Guardian as your game type options for ranked.
Mhm.
Recently, they put in Execution, so there's 6 different game modes that you can play in the ranked playlist. The concerning thing for me is the difficulty of how hard it is to like rank up in ranked. So basically you play your 5 placement matches and you get placed in a tier.
Mhm.
So it's like, so I got like silver 2 or something, which is what it feels like everyone else got.
Mhm.
And then it's silver 2, you can only play for top percentages of the tier. You're
Mhm.
locked into that tier for like a week, and then the certain top percentage of that tier will move up, I think is what they're going towards.
Mhm.
It's just concerning because you can put a lot of playtime into the game and don't really see a return as far as leveling up or ranking up. So
Mhm.
it's concerning to me in a way that there's a lot less reasons for me to get back on and continue playing other than is the game fun. So as far as like the challenge point of like ranking up, it's really concerning to me because there's really no reason to continue to grind at this point in time without just getting to a top tier in your or like getting to it, because it like separates by like top 99%. It'll go
Mhm.
like 98, 97, 96, 95, and it'll rank you in that. So it's like I'm like top 15 in my King of the Hill, and I'm like top 20 in my Execution. So I'm really high in my like silver 2,
Mhm.
but I can't get out of silver 2 without putting a shit ton of time into it, which is really concerning for me right now.
So it
So we'll see
almost
what.
feels like you're boxed in to an
Yeah.
extent. Like,
Yeah, it feels like you're basically boxed in, which is
now they
concerning
may
because
that may be something, granted, we're talking about totally something different comparative to a single player experience. Like, once that's out, you're about done. There may be some updates for stabilization, but like when we're talking we're talking multiplayer, man, like I agree, like that is kind of concerning because especially in today's landscape with multiplayer games, you look at Fortnite, you look at Siege, you look at even, Halo 5 even. There's always shit that's being updated and new content, and there's new things that are being refreshed, and the balance is always being changed to adapt. Like, this seems like it's something that's got to be changed up here relatively soon. And I kind of want to get your opinion too. You mentioned like, it's hard finding things to come back to, at least from outside of, hey, this game's fun, I want to keep playing.
right.
What do you think about their quote unquote battle pass that they have, where there's these X challenges, you get these rewards from it, and you have to get certain, ranks or whatever. Not necessarily the like you were saying, your competitive rank, but there's like account ranks almost. It seems like similar
Yeah.
to a battle pass on Fortnite or whatever.
So for me, it's like I didn't even really look into the battle pass if we're being 100% honest about it.
Mm-hmm.
I pretty much just like I was just basically like playing the game, and I didn't really look into any of the um add-ons or things you could purchase or whatever. I pretty much just play the game, and whatever I unlocked, I unlocked. I'm not one who's going to spend money on the game in that sense,
Mm-hmm.
basically. So if I'm being honest with you, I didn't really look that much into the battle pass because I was basically just playing ranked exclusively,
Yeah.
and whatever I unlocked, I unlocked. But it was fun enough that, and it felt good enough that I could just load into the games over and over again and didn't really pay attention to the other things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good in my opinion. But like I said, as far as bringing a player like me back who's competitive and just wants to rank up, like I wanted to get that 50 so bad in Halo.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get as high as I possibly can in every game I play that has ranked. That's a little concerning to me, and we'll see if they make any tweaks with feedback because the game is only like 2 weeks old.
Right, and they have
So
and what we're talking about is the Tour of Duty battle pass. They're doing this basically in 3-month waves of like what they're calling operations, similar to like Siege does with their quote unquote operations. You'll see like they'll put new characters out, new modes, new maps, things like that, where they will keep it like updated every, between, like right now the window is the launch operation, which is from September to December, and you can get, there's like winter armor, you can get desert armor, some like different skins for the Nasher and different execution things that you can get, but it seems like it's all like you're saying, it's new for right now. Gears is only 2 weeks old, so we're only
Right.
seeing this such a small what's the word I'm looking for, like bite-sized outlook we're seeing. I guess I can't think of the word that I'm thinking of, but like we're only having a small section that we can like go off of, that it's hard to tell what, like, they're promising all this content that's coming out, which I believe them, because by the end of Gears 4's lifespan, they had tons and tons and tons of shit that you could do in that game. So I feel confident in that, but I do agree that, like, what you're saying, right now it's hard to look at it and say, well, you know, is this game fun? Yeah, but what else can I do in there? I'm kind of gridlocked right now.
Yeah, I'm basically stuck in a situation where like I'm playing just to rank higher in my placement, or in my rank or my tier. Like that's a little strange, right? But other than outside of that, some of the other notes I had like building onto this is they added execution.
Mm-hmm.
And you can check leaderboards, which are pretty cool because it's kind of like a harking back to the old school Gears 1 and back to the old Xbox, like original Xbox games like Counter-Strike on there, Rainbow Six 3. Like you had leaderboards that had different rankings for different things. They have that back in Gears 5. So you can see who has the most kills per set. Like they have kills per minute on King of the Hill and a couple other of the game types. They have points per minute. They have wins. They have some other rankings like in the leaderboards, which are really cool to see how you stand up and stack up against the rest of your friends list. The only thing is with the addition of execution, they didn't add execution in the leaderboard section yet. It's a little strange. It feels like they kind of just threw execution in. I have here that the placement matches are really rough. The team balancing remains an issue. It was a situation where, like, when the game wasn't out yet and I had Ultimate, so I got to play the game early, I understood that the balancing was tough because the player pool was probably a lot smaller. But now that there's such a big player pool, a lot of times I feel you're being matched up against opponents that have multiple players in a party, which causes it to be a lot more difficult to win because they're communicating and working together. It's kind of concerning that they don't do a better job of matching them up against other parties that have multiple players engaged. If you're a solo match, like solo player, feels like you should be playing with other solo players. That's a little bit of a concern to me. We'll see what adjustments they make there. If you're highly ranked, like you'll get fresh noobs on your team a lot because there's no rank requirement to get into ranked. So there's a lot of times where I'm playing like with level 9 or below and they're at the bottom of the scoreboard and just getting murked the entire time. So it's really frustrating as a solo player to get these lower ranked players on your team.
Let me ask you this, because you're kind of feeding into a topical question that I did have, and I think we kind of touched on it a little bit, but I want you to kind of dig in on this. So, like, Gears has a small but like very, very loyal fan and player base for its competitive. Like Gears eSports, it isn't the go-to thing you think of when you hear your eSports, but the community it does have is very loyal and very like hardcore. Now that Gears does have this kind of, we're seeing this boom with Gears right now, having 3 million players come in and play this fucking game, and how you're saying there's such a low barrier to entry on ranked. Do you think like having a title with esports roots like Gears 5 on Game Pass is good for the overall esports presentation of this game? Like, sure, it improves the player count, which is great because you'll be able to find matches and all these different things, but do you think that's possibly going to dilute the experience and also kind of the talent pool of the esports competitive area that the coalition opens up? Like, do you think this just might dilute the whole experience of playing an actual competitive ranked experience, making it so low?
I can't. Or
is it too early to tell?
I think that there's still a ton of like, there's so much to be determined yet with this game, and I don't think that the low barrier to enter ranked will cause that large of a negative experience for most players. I think it's a situation where, as far as diluting the talent pool or anything, I don't think that's going to be a situation because they announced the first Gears Open in San Diego. And let's face it, like if you're going to go out to San Diego, you're going to be a good player. So I don't think it's going to dilute the player pool. It might cause more like talented players to come out of nowhere and get engaged in the game. So that might be a good a nice positive thing is a
Hell yeah.
situation where more talent might come out of nowhere type deal to like show itself. My biggest situation or my biggest opinion or my biggest problem with the Gears competitive scene, like you said, the no barrier to entry is definitely like a concerning situation because it's kind of hurting the experience of players who are solo playing, and it
Mhm.
might give them a bad taste and make them not want to come back. But overall, I think that the fact that it's on Game Pass, getting this game more exposure, it might make it to where these players have like way more experience with this game, and it might make them interested in actually watching the esports. So I think the only thing it can do for a game like Gears is grow the scene. And it
Which is
might not
great.
be a ton, it might not be a wildfire, but let's say you're going into King of the Hill and you're playing ranked King of the Hill, and then you get a pop-up that says, hey, the Gears Open in San Diego is going on right now. Tune in to
Mhm.
blah, blah, blah. And players might think, well, I want to go watch this because I want to see if I have the chops that's able to play. You know what I
Right.
mean?
It's almost
So
similar to what like CS:GO does with any of its majors, any of its tournaments or different events that they do have going on, like ELS. When you pop open CS:GO, it's right there. Hey, we're live right now. Come and watch.
Yep.
But, do your picks or whatever, but even just come and check it out. You're already playing the game. Like, come right in and check it out.
right, I agree. And basically, yeah, it's just like you said, it's if they do it correctly, I think it's very good for the game. Obviously, I think that they're going to see quite a nice little growth, at least in viewership for sure.
Hmm.
As far as like who's actually watching the game, I think you're going to see a really nice spike right there.
Yeah.
You might see more talent getting involved, and more talent might figure out, hey, I'm actually good at this. I should play it. So that's something that you might run into, which is really cool. As far as a game, and makes me hopeful for Halo Infinite going forward.
Oh, definitely.
So I have here doubt like we're gonna get into the nitty gritty. So we're getting into the actual gameplay now, not just like the overarching multiplayer experience. Which, by the way, this isn't including Horde because I don't have any friends on Gears that I would want to play Horde with,
Mhm.
and this isn't including the Escape Hive situation. So the shooting, you said that the bloom and the recoil you like. I said the shooting feels decent. Bloom and the Lancer and the recoil and other automatic weapons is new to the series, so this is like brand new. Like
Mhm.
back in Gears 3, Gears 2, Gears 1, there was no bloom with the Lancer. You had a little reticule,
Yep.
and you would just pull the trigger, and it would shoot,
And
and
it hit.
it hit.
Yeah.
My verdict on it is meh. I don't really care one way or the other. It's cool. It's new. It feels different. It doesn't really bother me so much.
Mhm.
I think it adds a little bit of like a skill gap to it, maybe.
Mhm.
But for me, like this random bloom, like I'm sure there's a rhyme to it, but if it's just random, it's hurting the game because it's adding randomness to the game. But
Mhm.
by and large, I don't have anything to say bad against it, but I'm not loving it.
Okay.
It feels more realistic in terms of like shooting a gun, but it feels less like Gears. So meh, like win lose, I think it just like on a scale it kind of balances.
Okay.
I have here that shotgunning makes more sense than previous games. The ranges are more defined and it's more consistent of like what you're actually going to shoot someone to down them.
Mhm.
However, I find myself getting 96 damage in one shot in close range very often, where the other person will one shot me. I have here listed though that it might be a situation with me personally aiming. Like I might be missing personally,
Oh, okay.
whereas the other person's shooting better. So I might be aiming at the ground a little bit too much, where people are aiming a little higher and getting that 100% damage in one shot.
Mhm.
The sniping feels really solid. There's a
Yes, it
problem
does.
right now with Xbox.com loading Gears 5 clips, but I have a few clips that are so nasty and with a sniper. The torque bow feels just like the torque bow. It feels amazing.
Mhm.
The boom shot is really weak right now, unfortunately. It feels like you have to shoot people pretty much point blank, or you have to hit them with a direct shot to kill them.
I even
Where in
felt
previous-
that way in campaign too. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
granted,
felt like-
that's much different experience, but I
Yeah.
even felt that I'm like, man, the boom shot feels like I should be tearing people a little bit more.
Yeah, and it just doesn't really do much for me in the way of like, I feel like it's kind of poor as a gun, and it feels like it should be a lot stronger.
Mhm.
I have The marksman rifle is fun. I forget what exactly the name of it, but basically, if you 3-shot someone and the third shot's in the head in multiplayer, you'll get a headshot and get an instant kill, which rewards skill. I really love it. It's a lot of fun. The grenade launcher.
Are you talking the Bolt Talk?
No, not the Bolt Talk.
Oh, okay.
That's pretty standard, just like from older Gears games.
Yeah.
Talking like, is it like it's like the Markma 4 something or other.
Oh my god, why can't I think of it? Marksta?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So is it
Yeah, it's the yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. The it's almost like a single bolt LMG. Right?
Yeah, it's the Marksta MK1 marksman rifle.
Yep.
And it packs a punch, and if you hit people with 3 shots and the third one's in the head, it's an instant kill in versus, which rewards skill.
Mm-hmm.
The only situation or the only problem I have with all the guns is it seems like you're a little light on ammo.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, but it seems like I'm always foraging for ammo. The grenade launcher Lancer is very useful in multiplayer for a couple different reasons. Obviously, you can get a multitude of kills in King of the Hill, and it feels really balanced because it does take a little bit for it to actually hit because it shoots out, makes a really loud noise, and then it drops the rain of like explosives, which allows the player being targeted to kind of dodge it.
Mm-hmm.
So it does feel really balanced. It takes a skilled player to use it. The Bolt Talk, it's pretty much status quo from older games, pretty solid. Not a lot of issues there. The railgun type gun that comes from Gears 4, it's tough to use, but I feel like if you practice with it, it's going to be very good. The ripsaw thing is really annoying and shitty. I don't like it because it like bounces off of walls and can kill people even though you're like not even aiming at them. So that's a little bit of a meh to me. The missile launcher thing pisses me off. But outside of that, like the Troika and everything, like, or the Mulcher, like that's all well and dandy. It's fine.
Yeah.
I have that okay, so like we're gonna bust into the movement next and my thoughts on the movement. It can feel a little strange at times. Sometimes jumping in diagonal directions can cause issues. Like sometimes if I'm trying to jump up and to the right, I'll like either go straight to the right or straight forward, which is kind of weird. The wall bouncing feels very good. So competitive players know what wall bouncing is. You can like wall cancel. So as you're sliding up to a wall, like I play on tournament where left bumper is my A button basically. And when I'm sliding up to a wall, if you tap down, like, so say you're sliding to a wall that's like straight ahead of you, if you hold in down, your guy will stop. And that's kind of how wall bouncing is done. Like you can wall bounce off of different walls to avoid damage. It feels very good in this game. And the only concern I have is sometimes it feels like I should latch on and slide onto a wall, but I might be just out of distance. And I think that's just playing the game more and getting used to it. I have overall, like most complaints come from the lack of the balance of teams. The maps in general promote more passive gameplay. So I'm not a huge fan of most of the maps in this Gears. I feel like it kind of promotes like the sitting back and lancering each other gameplay, which is a little different because in previous Gears, you would just like Nash or rush at each other. And this is even an execution where you have to be like right next to someone or get a headshot to kill them. Like if you down someone, you have to rush them and kill them in execution. And it feels like there's a lot more Lancer play, which is just different. It's not a bad thing or a good thing. I just feel like it's different. The spawn points suck really bad for King of the Hill. They need to add more spawn points and make them better. It can be very hard to prevent enemy teams from spawning behind you when you're near a hill. You almost need like a teammate to be like standing right there to block it. And even sometimes they'll still spawn there. So that's a little wonky for me. I know it sounds like I had a really negative review of multiplayer. However, personally, this is just an analytical deep dive into the ranked multiplayer and the multiplayer in general. So just because it feels like I was bashing the game overall, if I had a number to give and you're giving 1 out of 10, I'd give this game honestly, like with the shooting and everything, I give it an 8, or I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. And the reason why it gets a 7.5 out of 10 for multiplayer is I have an issue with the lack of gore. Like it's rated M, but it feels like they kind of cheaped out on the gore aspect of the game. It just feels kind of campy and weird to me. And all the other pain points that I have listed gives it a 7.7, like 7.5, 7.75,
Mm-hmm.
with some decent updates on balancing the boom shot out, making the ranked experience overall better.
Yeah.
This like that like all of those pain points damage it so much for me. Like it could easily be a 9 if those situations were ironed out.
Yeah.
But for me, until it's ironed out, it's a 7.5. So I still think the game's very good. And like just to give you the listener, because this is a little bit new, giving games numbers for us on this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
I would give games like Halo 2 out of the box, if you remember it, with the 6 beatdowns, I would have given that game like a 6.5 or a 7. Halo 3 out of the box, like without the MLG update, like playing on the
Mm-hmm.
5-shot, slow ass movement, all the regens and bubble shields and bullshit,
Mm-hmm.
I would have given that game like a 7. So
Yeah.
this game, like Halo 4 out of the box, felt like one of the most polished games in the Halo franchise. I would have given Halo 4 out of the box an 8. But like over time, I would have lowered that score because they just didn't do anything to it.
Right. Yeah.
So for me, my score is a dynamic score and it can change.
Mm-hmm.
But like right now, I give it a 7.5, which is still trending better than a lot of the other Halo games that got better with updates.
Yeah.
So it's still a very good game, and 7.5 might sound low to you, but like there's not a whole lot of games that I give out of the box like 9s, 9.5s. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's very tough for me to give games that high of a ranking, and that's just because I'm critical.
Yeah.
And I want games to be really good. I'm a tough critic and I want games to be really good. So I give it a 7.5, and there's my justification for the rating basically.
No, absolutely. And I know you said you didn't really touch on, you didn't play Horde or Escape. I did play
Right.
those a little bit, and just coming also from Gears 4 playing Horde a lot. In terms of the multiplayer, I did play from that. But playing Gears 5, Horde, and Escape, they are both great. There are two very distinctly different experiences. Like Horde, you just so you know, you're going to invest an hour playing it, like type of thing,
Mhm.
like that people should know going into it. Where Escape, it's quick, man. It is like you're doing rounds really quick and you're doing games really quick. It's fast paced, but both of those, they're fun experiences. You can jump in solo, but you really, in terms of being actually wanting to stick around with them long term, they're like any type of Horde experience or firefight experience. Like you want to have a group going into it. Like it's better with four player co-op with it.
Right.
So, but they're all pretty standard. Like Horde is Horde. Like they did a few things to that do improve it, but for the most part, at least in my experience, Gears 4 Horde and Gears 5 Horde are pretty similar. So, at least from what I've played of both, they're pretty similar experiences. Escape isn't the most exciting thing in the world, but I think it's a good base for what they can, do long term with it. Like you're saying, it's a good base. It's what they have isn't bad. They just need to tweak it a little bit. And
Yeah.
and that's what's, I think a lot of people don't realize or think about whenever they're giving scores on multiplayer games. They're games as a service at this point. All multiplayer games, for the most part, are games as a service because they want people, or the devs want you playing their game. The publisher wants you playing that game. That's what they want you to, the game that you keep coming back to, comparative to a Destiny, comparative to a Fortnite. Like, so Gears, they already have, and they've been very upfront with, hey, here's our roadmap. You're getting content, you're getting new modes, you're getting new characters, you're getting new things. We're going to be balancing this game left and right. Like, so from what they've told me and what they've done in the past, by the end of Gears 4's lifespan, in terms of the zeitgeist that it's in, I feel confident that they will address the things that you brought up. I don't see it not being addressed, especially with the money and the financial backing that Microsoft's putting into their first parties and saying, no, we're not dropping the ball this time. Fool me once type of deal. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that you were able to bring in this, because I like, that's why I'm glad we ended up doing this review kind of split like this, because you're able to give such a better analysis than most on actual esports and competitive experiences, because that's what these games at the core are. They're competitive games. They're not, like, from a multiplayer perspective, at the heart of Gears, at the heart of Halo, they're they are competitive experiences, not cooperative experiences. I mean, it's nice to have those cooperative experiences like Horde and Escape, but at the end of the day, they are, you go to Gears time after time, at least, through the longevity of the franchise, you're playing Team Deathmatch. You're playing, and Horde is the secondary mode that you're playing. So I'm glad you were able to kind of bring that in. I totally, from what you say, is justifiable to me. I love the detail that you were able to provide, man. I really do. So, before we,
I could have went into more, but
yeah,
figure for time's sakes and everybody's sake,
yeah.
I would just kind of.
Hey, no, and this is it's a game that I guarantee we're gonna, I'm not done with Gears 5. It has a place on, and we'll get into this obviously with Cash to Pass an Asset, but like I'm gonna keep playing this game. We're obviously giving this a good review.
Yeah, like as soon as we're done with this, I'll probably hop on it. Like as soon as we're done,
yeah,
I'll probably just get on. You know what I mean? Because I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a hell of an experience on really both sides of the ball, if you want to say. So, before we kind of head into wrap it up with our Cash at Pass It Asset, normally this is where whenever we do game specific episodes, normally this is where we do our Gamecast Casino, but with Adam being absent this week, we will go back to the well on what we've done on our Minecraft episode, which is Who Said What. If you are not familiar with this segment, as we've only done it once in the past, which Mike wasn't on that episode, so it was a one-on-one conversation with Adam, we decided to do this little game that I came up with. So it's a segment where I'm going to read a quote, and my co-host has to simply tell me which one of our subjects said it. So, and there's some... You think it's like, oh, whenever I tell you what it is, like, oh, I definitely think it's going to be this one or that one. I got Adam a few times. Like, I'll give him credit. Like, I try to get things that are pretty similar. So this week, keeping with the Gears theme, we're going to say who said what between Marcus Phoenix or Dom Toretto, aka Vin Diesel's character in Fast and Furious. Think about that one, huh? So, let's start. Let's start it off here. All right. So, I'm gonna read a statement from one of these characters, and I just simply want you to tell me: is it Marcus or is it Dom? All right.
Okay.
And like I said, we can't really do Gamecast Casino this week because of Adam not being here and our leaderboard, going into effect with that. So this is more of just a little. It may help you sleep at night knowing that you know your shit type of deal. So, and you're a Fast and Furious guy. I know you've watched them, so.
I haven't watched them all. I've watched the first few.
But Dom! So, let's get into it, man. Alright, first statement here. Nothing sadder than locking a beast in a cage. Did Marcus say that, or did Dom say that? And Dom Toretto, Fast and Furious, not Dom from Gears of War.
What was it again?
Nothing sadder than locking a beast in a cage.
I've never heard Marcus Phoenix say it. I'll have to go with that's a Dom Toretto quote because I don't remember hearing Marcus ever say it unless he said it in Gears 4, which he might have, but that might have been from Dom, from Fast and Furious 5, which I haven't seen or whatever. I'm gonna go Dom Toretto. Final answer.
Nothing sadder than locking a beast in a cage is a quote from Dom Toretto, right on the money, man. That's good reasoning. I like that reasoning you were able to give.
I kind of had to walk you through what I was thinking.
No, hey, by all means, I'm all for that. So, all right, let's move into the next one here. If you can't stand the heat, stay out of my face. Was that Marcus or was that Dom?
If you can't stand the heat,
stay out of my
face. I'm going Dom Toretto again, final answer. I've never heard Marcus say that.
Final answer. Are you sure?
Yes.
All right. If you can't stand the heat, stay out of my face is a quote from Marcus Phoenix.
Oh, god damn it.
Hey, that's all right. That's all right. You're still on the board. That's all right. You're still batting 500. That'll easily put you in the Hall of Fame. So,
dude, if you bat 500 in the MLB, you're the best player that ever lived, basically.
Hands down.
So
yes,
we'll take it.
Absolutely. So, all right, moving on to the third statement here. This next statement. I think you're batshit crazy. That's what I think. Is that Dom or is that Marcus?
That's Dom Toretto. Final answer.
Final answer.
Final answer. Oh God, they both could have said. No, it was I think you're batshit crazy. That's what I think. It was from Gears of War 1. It's Marcus Phoenix. It's from Gears of War 1. I forget exactly what mission it was. He was talking to one of the people who were like living out in the world. So yeah, it's Marcus Phoenix.
Final answer?
Yes.
I think you're batshit crazy. That's what I think. Is a statement by Marcus Phoenix. Good reasoning. Good reasoning.
Yep.
I like that. I like that deduction there. So that's good, man. So you're 2-1 right now. Let's head on into the fourth one here. Next statement says, "You break her heart, I'll break your neck." Was this Marcus?
That's from Dom Toretto from Fast and the Furious 1. Whenever they're working in the garage and they're working on building Brian's 10-second car to repay Dom, and he says that, or Dom asked Brian if he was taking her or where he was taking his sister out, and he says, "If you break her heart, I'll break your neck." It was Dom Toretto. Final answer.
I'm not even gonna read that one. That was perfect. You right on the head. That one was kind of hard. That was one of my last ones that I was like, I gotta find one more at least here. So, but no, that's right. Dom did say that. Vin Diesel did spout that out, man. So you're 3-1 right now. So heading into the final one here. All right, final one. Statement is, "Aw shit, they're ruining my tomatoes." Was this Dom or was this Marcus?
Dude, this is a trick question. It's Dom Santiago. It's from Gears 3 when they have their little gardens up on the deck of that one ship. All the fucking lambent locusts are like running through his fucking garden, and he gets all fired up, and that's the quote he says. I don't think it was either of them.
Is that your final answer?
I think it's Dom Santiago. Final answer, which is like neither of them.
Aw shit, they're ruining my tomatoes. It's a quote by Marcus Phoenix. So to be honest, I'll give you a half point on that one. I'll give you a half point because this is in Gears 4. He says it. You actually have to he says it real quiet.
Okay.
He says it real quietly, but if you shoot like the tomato plants whenever they're going into when the swarm are first coming after JD and Dell and Kate, when they go to find Marcus at the estate, they go into the barn, and that's whenever they start dropping into the barn, or into the greenhouse, I mean, and he says it real quietly at first. He's like, "Oh shit, they're ruining my tomatoes," but then he's growing obviously all those tomatoes for Dom Santiago, because then if you shoot I'll have to put the clip into the description of the episode, but if you shoot the one tomato plant that's in there, he goes on this big long fucking rant. He's like, "Those are goddamn Dom's tomatoes. Why the fuck are you doing that?" Blah blah blah. It's so fucking funny. But yes, he does actually say that. They are for Dom's memory. So I'll give you a half point on that one.
Okay.
So,
Because I'm I'm 100% sure Dom gets pissed about it.
no, he does.
In Gears 3 when the lambent store. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and that's a callback to that, why he's growing those tomatoes. But it's a pretty funny Easter egg that I was like, because then I was like, well, he always does. Dom Toretto always talks about this goddamn he's always talking about the family meal at the end, and I was like, maybe that'll play into it. I don't know, but there you go. That's been Who Said What, a segment that we do bring back time to time. It looks like we're gonna end up doing here and there, but a little change up from the Gamecast Casino. But that, I think, me personally, I don't think we'll ever replace Gamecast Casino. It's like life or death with this podcast anymore, especially with my co-host. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely.
So
I had a fun time with it.
No, that's good. Adam seemed to like it as well whenever we did play it. We did what's his name? The creator of Minecraft. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Oh, Notch.
Notch, that's
or whatever,
it. It was Notch. It was Who Said What? Notch or a superhero/villain monologue. And it's actually pretty close, in terms of some of the statements. It stumped Adam, surprisingly, and he knows a decent bit about that game, so. But yeah, let's move into our final segment, put a bow on the podcast for the week. Cash it, pass it, ass it. I know this is a little redundant doing this, even though we just gave a we just gave our review of the game. Obviously, we gave it a pretty glowing review, especially my end with the single player, and Mike gave it a very favorable score comparative.
Let
to
me say a 7.5 to me is so good.
Right, that's what I mean.
Take it as you will.
Glowing isn't a stretch from your perspective, I think. So, yeah. So, if we're talking cash and passive asset, we're really looking at it. Should you invest in this game or not? I really think if we're gonna, to alter it with a review. From my perspective, man, if you're an Xbox fan and you're looking to get back into Xbox, this is a no-brainer. At bare minimum, pass it. I mean, you can get in to pass it for $2 right now, and you get the Ultimate Edition. You get a boost for your leveling or whatnot. You get all these other things like with its skins. You get the Halo Reach skins, which are fucking dope. You get the Sarah Connor skin from Terminator, which is kind of cool if you're a Terminator person. But the Halo Reach skins are awesome, if you ask me. Which definitely means we're also going to see either JD, Dell, Kate, or Marcus in fucking Halo Infinite at some point in some kind of skin. So, which is exciting. But to me, man, I would personally cash this game because I think this is such a good indicator where we're trending with Xbox Game Studios. Like I said, if we're peeping into the future with Xbox and its first parties and whatnot, and this is a glimpse at that, I'm really excited for what the future holds. To me, this is like a 9 out of 10 game. I would cash this. I think, like you were saying, there are some things with multiplayer that, aren't worrisome, but are things that need to be addressed for longevity. But from a content perspective, with them doing away with the premium pass and doing this battle pass and offering, you'll be able to actually use real money to buy skins and whatnot, but only cosmetic things really for the most part. With a battle pass that they have that's free, and with you having content that's dropping in 3-month cycles, guaranteed in 3-month cycles with the operations, to me, for $60 you're coming in at this, if not, just from cashing and owning the game outright, this is kind of a no-brainer buy if you're on Xbox or PC, or you're looking to get into the Xbox zeitgeist. If you're an Xbox owner of any sort, buy this game. This definitely deserves a place on your hard drive. Mike, what do you think, man?
Damn. Dude, I gotta be honest, it's tough to get me to move away from passing anything because the value's so good. Mm-hmm. Okay, so until for me being a multiplayer type guy, until they work out some of the kinks, it's a pass for me.
Which is a very good thing. Which is a very good thing right now with Xbox Game Pass and the deals they have.
It's like $2 for 2 months for Ultimate.
It's an absolute no-brainer just to pass this right now.
Yeah, for me it's a pass 100% all the way. You got to pass it because it's just that's where the value is. So I would say pass it 100%, but if they were to work out some kinks, it's a cash for me. Multiplayer wise, that's just multiplayer.
Yeah. That's
not even considering the whole shebang. So if you're someone who really wants to play campaign and everything, by all means, cash it. But for me, right now, I've just been playing multiplayer. It's a pass.
Yeah. I mean, and from somebody who is a mostly, if it's on console for the most part, outside of Halo, I still play Halo, multiplayer. If I'm playing Halo, that's what I play on console, but mostly for console, I'm playing single-player experiences. If I want to play shooters, I play it on my PC. But from somebody who is looking at this as mostly a single-player experience, I can't say enough good things about that single-player experience this offers. So, yeah, at bare minimum, this is a pass. If you have an Xbox, you need to play this game. Personally, I think this is a no-brainer. So, overall, man, I think we gave a lot of good points, both positive, negative, for what this game. Hopefully, we give you a great perspective on, if you're approaching this game, whether a newcomer or a long-term Gears fan or somebody who's lapsed, who's trying to get back into the franchise. I hope we can give you, this kind of paints a picture for this. It's kind of a deep dive on this. We're, running a little long in the tooth, but I'd rather do that for, a game like this with the scale that it has and the AAA impact that it has on the gaming industry in general. So, with that being said, let's put a bow on her, Mike. Mike, where can people find you online?
They can find me online at Toy Soldier. The second O is an X That's at TOYSXLDIER. And on Xbox Live at LL Toy Soldier LL. And on Twitch at MP_Toy Soldier.
Definitely. And you can find Adam at AC_Marshy. That's AC_MARSHY on Twitter. That's where he wants to talk to you about, like he always says, game recommendations, gaming topics, any of your thoughts on games. Reach out to him on Twitter to check that out. And as always, I am your host, Travis White, aka Traveless, on most internet platforms, including Twitter at Traveless_, TRAVLESS_. You can find me on twitch.tv/Traveless_, same as Twitter, and also on Xbox Live, just regular Traveless, TRAVLESS, no underscore.
Oh, wait a second. I have a little bit of information to share with everybody, including you. The Blue Yeti blackout microphone that's normally $150 is $89.99 right now at Best Buy.
Deal of the day.
It includes a free copy of Fallout 76.
Hey, that's Fallout 76 getting a big update here soon that adds NPCs and makes it a fucking actual Fallout game. So
basically the mic is $89. So the mic is $150 normally by itself. It includes Fallout 76, which is a $60 value. The whole bundle is only $89.99 right now. So if you're looking for a microphone, if you want to get into the streaming world, if you want to do anything like that, you need to jump on that deal right now, because yesterday I checked it and it was $99.99. So what I'm guessing is they're making a huge push to get players on Fallout 76, or they're just trying to get rid of the fucking microphone. So pick it up.
And it's a good mic.
Absolutely. I'm going to get it because it's an upgrade from what I have.
Hell yeah.
And that's a deal I can't pass up.
Yeah, that might be a purchase for me as well. That's a really good deal. But yeah, deal of the day. I'll make sure to put a link to that in the description of this video. Hopefully it's still live whenever this episode goes live, and you can make sure you get up on that deal. We'll also push that on social media as well, so look for that tweet, because that is a hell of a deal. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that being said, that's going to put a bow on it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for liking. But thank you so much in general for just being a part of this growing community. As always, game on, and we will see you next week.